Hello and welcome to Finding Voices podcast. I think this is podcast 14, 15,
Yep.
14. I'm Eugene Wasowski Gallagher.
I'm Tom Wheeler.
Alexander Kuzmenko here, and I'm a person whose status FAF.
So today we're going to be talking about meditation. To give some background as to why, I've had a bad speech day for the last few months, and a bad speech day is characterized for me by the inability to focus on one conversation, like what I'm saying, my side of the conversation. I can focus on listening to someone easy, but I can't listen to myself to speak properly, and that means I will stammer much more than if I can focus properly on how I sound. And I'm opening up the floor.
Alex, what characterises your a very bad speech day for you?
Bad speech day. Well, I block. This is a bad speech day. And then bad thoughts about blocking. That makes the day even worse. And then
Which is worse? Which is worse, the bad thoughts or the bad blocks?
I think bad thoughts are the worst. And then bad thoughts about bad blocks after. First, the traumatic stress disorder we'll have to live with. Yeah, meditation, I do that, yeah.
Yeah. So before we started recording, we had a brief chat about what types of meditation could help. Still laughing. And because you have mindfulness, which blanks your mind, but that won't help someone like me, who the problem isn't I don't have any thoughts flowing through my head. I just can't hear the thoughts outside my head. So we came up with, or Alex suggested I tried, is it a Tao meditation, which is basically you focus on everything, and
How?
exactly. I'm going to pass it over to Alex to explain more.
Well, regular meditation is you closing your eyes and you focus on one thing, something imaginary, like a focus point. It works, but not for everyone. So for some people, the better way to meditate is, instead of focusing on one thing, you focus on everything. You open your eyes, you open your ears, you smell everything, you inhale everything, you see everything, but you don't judge it. So you just experience being one with every moment, even if the bullets are flying. Not a big deal. Bad stuttering day. Yeah, I had those recently. And they happened because of either I avoid doing things, either I'm trying to to show myself as a fluent speaker, which I'm not really. So I'm hiding my stuttering, and that makes me always stutter. And the third reason is that I'm adding too much meaning to things, to happenings, to people, this and that.
So have you tried meditation as a means to overcome some aspect of that?
Well, yeah, I think the problem is like, why do we need to meditate? We need to meditate to stop a chatter in our head, this repetition of a bad thing, this happening. We see it over and over again. We wake up with this, we go to bed with this, it's eating us alive. So we need to refocus. So you meditate, and all of a sudden you forget all about it, and that gives you a new perspective. Like, was that real danger, or was it just one of the irrational fears we have?
So, Tom, have you tried any form of meditation to help with your speech or otherwise?
Not yet. I would like to do it in the future, but currently, I suppose what you might regard as being close to doing meditation is actually what I do now and again, which is boxing. So I do every Tuesday and Thursday I do boxing, and while it might outwardly appear to be the antithesis of meditation, it's aggressive, it's violent. There is an element of, it does calm you afterwards. It's the intensity of the fight which calms you afterwards, and that's what I find to be currently my meditation. I'm still looking into the effects of this on my speech and on my mental, where I am in my mind, doing the app that I do. But currently, I think boxing is, in some ways, an alternative to meditation.
A quick question on this one: is it that when you box, you have to have absolute focus, and that you can't, and it's the focus itself on the task that I don't know, helps you relax? Like,
absolutely, the focus and the complete single-mindedness you have to have in boxing to basically stand your ground and not get beaten up is probably what makes it, in a way, quite similar to meditation, and perhaps also what takes your thoughts away from stuttering. So I've noticed that during boxing I don't seem to stutter as much when I'm kind of chatting to the person afterwards or whatever. And you might, there are lots of reasons why that might be the case. Might be the case because I think there's a study done a while ago about how boxing is very good for people who suffer from social anxiety. Physical contact sports, I think, was what it was looking into, but essentially it was, the result of the study was that physical contact sports was very good for people who suffer from social anxiety, and obviously there's an overlap with stuttering there, you might argue.
Cool.
I have a question. Leave a microphone there. So, when you talk during boxing exercises, you don't really stutter, right? No. Like, and you don't even notice yourself talking, even then, though you might talk a lot. I mean, maybe. So, yes, it is a meditation. Try to talk like in a ring, right? And you'll be completely fluent. In the ring.
In the ring.
While boxing, yeah, try to talk to your opponent.
Yeah.
Right?
Wouldn't that be?
There's no way you will start.
Well, no. I mean, I have stuttered in the ring. It's just that I think, on average, I stutter less. Obviously. I've yet to find something where I am totally fluent, but equally I have yet to find something where I am totally stuttering all the time. I think it's more of an instance of to what degree that I'm stuttering. In the ring, generally I kind of stutter less, but that tends to be after I've started boxing, not before. So it will be after the point of contact that my speech reduces the level of stuttering severity. But I think that comes down to how we were saying earlier about focus.
Yeah.
And how the kind of your level of focus changes your speech.
One other question, to put a spin on this one, is that because you mentioned contact sports earlier, so what is it about contact sports? Is it the fact with boxing, afterwards you've already fought, so there is no judgment left? You cannot judge someone who you've just fought because it's how you are in the ring overrules everything else.
Very good point.
So
Very good point.
do you think maybe it is the fact that you have literally punched each other and that helps your speech?
Essentially, it is boxing becomes another form of communication which you're compensating with.
Yeah.
So you say, yes, I have boxed you that way. I think it's. I mean, that's a factor, but I definitely think there are more than just that factor. There is the element of, changing your focus. There's element of, distraction from stuttering. I'd be interested to hear from other people who do other contact sports what they find with their speech and whether doing this kind of stuff does influence how they talk. I'd be very interested to hear that.
If you're listening, write it in the comments. What
Handwritten, please.
Well, no, just type it. What sport you did. How it helped your speech, so we can maybe bring you onto the show if you're around, or interview you to see other viewpoints, because it's interesting stuff.
I think it'd be interesting to do a survey about this.
Yeah.
Because I recently did a survey online about colour preferences in people who stutter, and I think I got about 500 people who responded to it.
I filled it in.
Oh, Eugene.
Yeah, I remember that.
Can I ask what colours you chose?
Well, my first favourite is purple, because I just like purple. Obviously. And then it's like blues and greens and oranges.
What's third favourite? Orange.
Probably second favourite, I think. It's weird. I like the sort of blue end of the spectrum.
Funny you say that, because I may as well say it now, but what I found so far, and I'm not the most well versed on using statistics and so on, is that in general, people who stutter prefer colder colours to warmer colours than a control group. Than a control group of fluent speakers.
Can I ask for some clarification on hot and cold? Because the scientific view is blue is hotter than red. So
is it?
Yeah. So
why? How?
Because it's a higher frequency, so it's more energy per photon of light. So that's why I have to clarify this question. Is it because red you would say is warmer?
Yes, it's warmer.
And blue,
cooler.
Yeah. So so you're saying people who stammer prefer the cooler end, like the blues, the purples.
So in general, they preferred colours like purple, green, black, grey. Cool. Blue, actually, there wasn't really much of a significant difference between people. I mean, I think it was like a slight preference for blue more so amongst fluent speakers, but basically it was found that green was the really preferred colour of choice. But I'm still kind of working through those results. I hope that what I've done is valid enough to be potentially publishable at some point or other. But actually, the reason why I was doing it was acting as a preliminary survey for then a study, as in with like an experimental design about what colours people who stutter use when they create things. So there's a really early study in the 1960s about this, which found that, I mean, that's why I actually started it, who found that children who stuttered used very different colours to fluent speakers. And so I want to basically repeat that study, but with a much better experimental design, and also using adults who stutter.
Cool.
But anyway,
Yeah.
I feel like we've kind of
Sidetrack.
digressed quite a lot. What else are we going to talk about today, Eugene? Have the plan. What does Alex know?
You recently made the video on doing stuttering on purpose, right? Volunteer stuttering, and that would sound like real stuttering. So there are, of course, like a few types of deliberate disfluency, and it was a discussion. Like, was it deliberate disfluency, or was it just out of control stuttering natural, or were you exaggerating it?
So I suppose it kind of leant more on the side of, it erred more towards the out of control natural sounding stuttering, and by natural I mean stuttering that I would do it if I was blocking really badly with someone. So I suppose like a voluntary stutter would be, I suppose, what is found on various programs where it's like, good afternoon, do you know what the way to the post office? And there is a quite predictable formula. But an out of control stutter that I was doing was following whichever way it was being dictated naturally. And by naturally, there was no kind of planning involved in it. It just came like instinctively. There was also a very degree of exaggeration in that in the blocks I wouldn't try to get myself out of it very easily. I think in a way you do kind of naturally kind of get yourself out of it, in that you just kind of like something kind of kicks into gear automatically. Like right now you notice that I basically just like exhaled all my air, and then I kind of like took a breath, and then it came out. So it's almost like using what I would, with absolutely no real thought, minimal thought, use to get through a block. So it is essentially trying to use, it's expending the least amount of energy on stuttering in my brain. Physically, it's probably like a lot more demanding. I don't have the facial tension I used to have about stuttering out of control, but I don't have that mental, like, anxiety of like, oh, I need to use this technique. I need to really plan what I'm going to say and put a lot of effort. And that's because there's a lot of willpower involved in voluntary stuttering. There's a lot of planning processing, which can be exhausting. Mentally.
And what's the outcome?
The outcome, you ask, is so far, and it's only been a few days. I definitely feel like anxiety about speech has not a few days. So just to clarify for those who haven't seen it, I've been stuttering out of control now pretty much for a month or so. Started. Yeah. So it started about a month ago, partly because I began taking these drugs to treat my ADHD, and found that I was struggling more to use control. But it was also because I went to a British Stammering Association conference, and where everyone basically stutters out of control. So I just kind of kept going with that after the conference, and I've been kind of rolling with it ever since. And the experience so far, first there were a few instances where I had to really like kind of pick myself up and say it's okay to stutter, don't worry about it. 'Cause there were like a few challenges, but eventually it became, I felt more at ease with it, and I kind of realised that people do listen eventually to what you say, and that the negative consequences of stuttering out of control that I always held in the back of my mind went, really.
Yeah, cool.
I'm slowly coming off the ADHD drugs gradually. I stopped taking them about 3 days ago. I've noticed that I'm marginally more fluent, but I don't know if that's down to the drugs. But we'll see in due course if I can hold out. So far, I feel very relaxed. I say relaxed. I suppose I kind of feel a lot more at ease about the out of control. I think the biggest thing is the lack of effort you put in the mind to stuttering.
So, the question is, if you what's the effect the ADHD medication has on how you think?
So do you mean holistically? So not just in terms of my stuttering?
Yeah, like in general.
Yeah. So I will say that I think like general anxiety has decreased. I didn't really have much to start with, but general anxiety has decreased. Become a lot calmer. Thought process a lot more organised. Things happened in nice, routine manners. My timekeeping was very good. I was never late for anything. Focusing was definitely better. There's other ADHD drugs that I've tried in the past briefly, and they've had different effects. So, for instance, I tried Adderall a while ago, and I found that was fantastic for my ADHD symptoms, being that I could focus with complete clarity on things. A bit like, have you seen the film Limitless? There's like a pill in which they take. Suddenly everything goes like... no joke, honestly. Yeah, honestly, it was the feeling of taking like a limitless pill was amazing. I haven't taken it since. I can get it prescribed, but currently I don't have it on me.
So, okay, because the reason I came back to that one is if a medication can change how your focus changes, that you can in effect shortcut some of the meditation idea.
That's true. Yeah.
I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
Pragmatically, I don't think it's a good or a bad idea, but it is a shortcut route, and if that like mentally helps your speech, like which from the sounds of it, you don't have any of the anxiety and distraction issues which I have from having a bad speech day.
Yeah.
Like it's much more like focused on it.
Yeah.
Which probably makes life easier. So.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So basically, the focus on speech is kind of absolved, which is a good thing, I think. Definitely, when I was taking Adderall, that was a lot stronger in terms of my focus, and I didn't really have any concern if I stuttered. So I was just like, whatever, I've got things to focus on. And I think there has been a study somewhere about how speech fluency or something else about speech improves if people who stutter are given a task to focus on. So maybe you both have noticed this, but if you're doing something and you're really focusing on it, you don't really think too much about speech, and maybe your speech more fluent.
Like
Did you find that?
Yeah.
Just like boxing.
Yeah.
I have a question. I think stuttering is a part. It's a part of communication disorder. So communication disorder comes first, and then as a result of it, as a symptom, we have stuttering. So, and people who stutter, who block, in silent blocks or pushing through the blocks, we start to isolating stuttering as a communication itself, and that gives us a problem. So deliberate disfluency is a exercise to desensitize ourselves to the fact that we stutter. So, and that has to be different from how we speak in normal. And when we're doing like exercise for the speech, we are not trying to remove the stuttering, which is impossible. We are trying to improve our communication with other people. So when I understand, like, okay, I stutter, I can care about that fact and make it even worse, or I can still stutter but not care about the shit anymore and just roll with it.
I presume it's more you roll with it because you're
Yes.
more focused on the communication bit, not the speaking bit.
Exactly. So
what you say as opposed to how you say.
but when we're working on a speech, we're working on the communication. So for example, I know when I talk in a high pitch, I would stutter, I would block. If I talk too fast, I would block. If I talk for too long, I'll start blocking eventually because I would run out of things to say. Right, so this deliberate disfluency you did, it was to desensitize yourself to the fact that you have stutter, and with that you can improve your communication skills in general. Or were you trying to tell yourself that I'm done, I can do whatever I want, fuck improvement? And
I suppose in a way it was the latter, in that I kind of felt more like I shouldn't really care too much about how I speak or communicate in general, because is it so important? I suppose really kind of more I was just kind of saying, kind of the thing that we always don't like is a being out of control bit. It's the like it's a total unknown. I just wanted to see what would happen if I was in that unknown area. It was like it was kind of uncharted territory. It was kind of what happens out there, and I kind of came out with it, realizing that it just becomes another way of speaking. I know this will not be the experience for everyone, but I definitely felt like it was just like, oh, what a relief. People really, really don't care if I stutter out of control.
I think you talk too fast.
She talk too fast.
You talk.
Do you think so?
Well, yeah, like we're all friends here, right? I can tell you. And we are all here communicating. I think, I would need you to go a little bit slower so I can understand things better.
Yeah, sure.
And I would probably need you to pause so I can think about what you have just said.
I can do
And I can pick up on that because I have the same problem.
Okay.
What do you
Yeah.
think, Eugene?
Well, I think like rushing yourself, I found like if it's a bad speech day, there's a temptation to rush yourself because you think the other person won't have time to listen to you. But that just makes everything worse.
Which is irrational fear.
Yeah.
Completely.
It reminds me once I had to ask questions to the driver on a bus. I was like, I can either stammer for like a minute and block like crazy, or I can take my time, pause way longer, like take a proper breath.
He's just stuck there, isn't he?
Yeah.
He can't move, run away.
And if you take your time, you take the same amount of time overall. Just it's a lot easier to
Comfort.
take your time. Yeah. And I think getting rid of that fear of that someone wants you to finish before you started, just fucking chill the fuck out. Calm down.
Yeah.
Take a chill pill. Helps you out.
I suppose really the speaking fast thing was the fact that I suppose I haven't really paid any attention to that side of speech. In that I've been being so much like, well, just I don't really kind of care like if I'm speaking fast, if I'm speaking slowly, if I'm doing this, that, the other. I don't really sort of that was it was never like I'm going to be very much out of control, but still speaking slowly, but still very erudite. I was just like, I don't care. I just don't care if I'm using the right grammar. I don't care if I'm using the right pronunciation. Just basically giving speech, the entire area of speech, no real thought, was my idea. I'm very much open to changing that, so I could, if I really wanted to, slow down my speech, give words that I'm speaking a lot more emphasis, but currently I'm trialing a method which I think will explore the uncharted territory that I've always looked upon with fear and dread, which is speaking out of control.
Weirdly, how you just transitioned to speaking slowly, everything went much smoother. One challenge I thought that we should probably all do is, like, this is partly to embrace the out of control stammering idea, because part of me really likes this, and I want to explore it a bit further as well. The idea simply is ignore your speech. Like, your speech should come second every time. The only thing you should concentrate on is being yourself when you communicate, and communicating well. Whatever the idea is, whatever the concept, communicate that across well. Then, so the idea is, this is borrowing from the idea of if you're given a task, your speech improves anyway. So, because I think too often we get distracted by thinking, I want to say this to blah blah blah, and then you get distracted on your own speech. You're like, I'm going to stammer right here, and it's going to be terrible.
I thought you were going to propose us to do stuttering out of control.
No.
It's a great exercise. This is how I've learned deliberate disfluency before Maguire. So on Maguire, deliberate disfluency is an exaggerated technique, right? But where I've learned it was just pretend that you stuttering out of control and go to people, and then do hang up drill in person. So you block on one sound completely, deliberately, spider, and then you just make people leave, like they can't stand there all day, right? So, and that's desensitizing. So I've done all that. It's like charted territory, like
but so kind of by out of control setting. I mean, there is no speech planning, so you haven't planned the out of control stutter.
But okay, the idea which I have is keep the lack of planning, because that, like, a lack of planning is like fluent speech. No one who stammers or
automatic speech.
Yeah. So
that's the idea.
Everyone who speaks, which is everyone in the world, doesn't think about how they will say stuff. That's purely a recovering stammerer viewpoint. It isn't a stammering viewpoint.
Speech
it's
planning.
a recovering stammering viewpoint.
stuttering is over-controlled speech.
Yeah. No.
That's what
Maybe.
you said.
No. What I'm saying is that if you, like, natural speech is you don't think how you will say the words.
Exactly.
Yeah, you just say it and then see what comes out. Stammering in itself is you have natural speech and then you apply too much control to it. Recovering stammering speech is you plan everything from the very beginning. You do not have natural speech. So that's
the illusion. you do plan all that, but all those techniques, so you can let the control go.
Yeah, but so
That's the idea.
the plan is the challenge I want to give. I'm gonna give myself this challenge. Is the whole idea you do not have any control over how you control your speech. The only thing you give any control over is your presentation of the information.
Let's say example of the kind of voluntary stuttering that you were taught before the Maguire program.
I don't want to override Eugene. I thought you wanted me to be completely well. I can't lie to myself. I'm always on techniques. I'm always using everything I know about stuttering. So,
But let's take
Okay.
any,
right.
Okay.
any
But
technique-
your thing,
any
yeah.
planning.
Okay. How about that? It's like-
Was
is-
that bit natural?
that was me exaggerating like everything I've done before.
Exactly.
I mean, it's all on purpose. I mean, it's an exercise.
Kind of my approach was kind of more just having no exaggeration, no like I'm gonna stutter, and I'm gonna change it. Just like let's see what happens.
Yeah.
But I can change it, how much I give it. Could you please? Could you? You know, like it's like once you get a little bit of it, I mean, you got the whole thing. And I thought that, I think we should divide techniques from deliberate disfluency. So why we using deliberate disfluency is when we fail in real life to use techniques. Why we use techniques? Good techniques are mimicking stuttering. So we use techniques so we can tell people that we stutter and desensitize ourselves, and all comes with disclosure. So Maguire, what it does, it helps to come out of a stuttering closet to stop pretending that we stutter. So deliberate disfluency, you can do it everywhere, but you shouldn't. It's when you're most focusing on working on your speech. And you're focusing on working on your speech so you can let go the controls later. Because stuttering is a controlled speech. And that's why deliberate disfluency. And it doesn't stop there, of course. That it's not enough. It's just the easiest way to do deliberate disfluency is to exaggerate technique. But you have to take it to another level. You have to go stuttering out of control and be okay with it. Because you will stutter only to the point of how much further you cannot do it. So your natural stuttering will take you to that limits anyway. So you have to go even further with your deliberate disfluency to completely desensitize your idea of accepting that you stutter.
To take it as far as you can.
Yeah. And that's how we go. Your turn. Show us how you would deliberately start off control.
No. Not even just deliberately. Just don't put any kind of planning.
But
Don't force it. Nothing forced about it. Just like completely like there's no thinking process.
How I normally how I would normally stammer is with a lot of what's it called? Fucking tension on the face. Yeah,
well,
like
that's fine.
lip. It's the lip things which. Yeah, that's all like that. Exactly what Alex is doing is what screws me up normally.
Let's see it then. Come on.
No, because I can't do it on demand.
Yes, you can.
No, because
You
no,
still have
I
to do
can't.
it.
I
You
haven't.
still have to do it.
I haven't.
On demand.
I haven't.
That's a real one.
Yeah,
That's
I
a real
know,
one.
but
Come on.
You can do it.
no,
You
because
can do it, Eugene.
I do.
Eugene.
On-
Eugene.
I would. I think a lot of the a lot of the techniques and stuff I sort of do subconsciously. So when
Oh, we got you here, dude.
no, because there's a lot of one of the things that every time I say biomedical, really not here, but every time I say the word biomedical to anyone else except here,
But you can
it's bio.
exaggerate,
Like
biomedical, right?
yeah,
And
'cause-
do deliberate disfluency on that, no problem.
It sounds like
Maguire deliberate disfluency, right?
Yeah,
it
but
sounds in a way like basically your techniques are kind of so not good, but they are so kind of well programmed that it's hard for you to kind of unwind,
yeah,
take away those layers.
yeah,
Which
but-
is actually a very good thing, but
yeah.
we're gonna have to ask you to
We-
just for us.
No, I
Take it
I
away.
can't do it.
No,
Take
No.
it away.
Just do a Maguire.
Show the real face of
The-
stuff.
the one of the weird things is if I if I talk to pets, fucking stammer then, and I'm like, what the
Yeah,
hell?
and that is-
That is
that-
messed up.
That I've seen people do it myself. Honestly, I've seen people do it as well.
No, but it's like because I'm trying to
Bring out
make
the pets, Alex. Bring out the pets.
Maguire deliberate disfluency. Like I can do hit and hold on biomedical shit,
Yeah.
or I can do block release on biomedical shit.
Yeah, but okay. Yeah, the thing which I have currently is that no, I have different feared words for different environments, which is messed up. Yeah.
I don't know about
So
that, yeah. That's interesting.
so I can do if I'm in a particular like, speech positive environment, then I have all my actual feared words.
Speech positive.
Yeah, speech positive, man, is like where you have people around you in the same boat as you. Then
Like us?
yeah. Then I have troubles with O sounds, so I have to
What's your hardest O sound? No technique.
orange.
Okay.
No technique.
Eight was a bad one for ages.
Okay, hold on.
Then in places like the zoo, but only in the zoo, for some reason, buggy and pushchair. I can't say those words for the life of me.
Only in the zoo.
And then you get,
funky, unfriendly zone.
and then you get
Speaking of the
weird,
zoo,
weird other stammering on. Take flight, ladybird. Then I get
or fly.
like weird, feared sounds if I talk to pets. I'm like, oh, this is messed up. Like cats.
what's your feared sounds to us?
Well-
What sound? What do you use here that you would struggle with here?
All the vowels. So, eat, eat, apple.
Okay,
All those,
Question.
but they only apply to this scenario, which is
you're
messed
lying to
up.
yourself.
No, I'm not lying to myself.
You are.
No,
Okay.
because it seems like I have a particular mode in my head,
That makes sense.
and then I have certain triggers like biomedical sciences. Is if I'm talking to someone I've just met.
Because your stress
Cannot say
levels
it.
change according to
Yeah.
the situation. There is different stresses on different things in different environments. It's a situational thing.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's a
There are
context
3 reasons why we started.
based.
First reason is we hiding the fact that we started. We
Yeah.
want to make impression as a fluent person.
So that might explain the zoo and meeting new people.
Yes. Reason number 2 is as we give too much meaning to things, to people, to parents, to
That's stress.
employees. No. It's us. It's absolutely irrational fears, but we just think that that person somehow meets more in this part of my life. Like for stuttering, for personal, this and this. Too much meaning, which might be not true. And the reason number 3 is we avoiding things. Like stop holding back is working on non-avoidant behavior. Maguire working on coming out of a closet, right? And Ramesh is working on the art of not giving a fuck, right? Which is so pick your poison. Like I think you give too much meaning to things. I think you grade everyone, everything, always, constantly. You put everything about like.
Yeah.
It's
I
all the
agree with
same,
that. I
dude.
agree
It's
with
all
that.
the well, right?
Yeah, that's probably the thing I
And
was
you
working on
avoiding words because of that.
sometimes.
Only because of that.
Well, no, so
You can't do that.
Jim, stop holding.
It's not allowed.
no, it's like you.
We're in our club.
You are not hiding anymore. You came out of a closet as a person who started.
Yeah.
You tell everyone.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You are
Don't
not
worry.
avoiding
No.
things really.
Yeah.
You are doing things. So you have only one thing left is that you give too much meaning
Yeah.
to situations,
I agree.
relations,
That
cultures,
does happen.
language, this and that.
That definitely happens. Like talking with pets because it's like, I am. What's the word? Anamorphosize? No. Anthropomorphize.
Yep.
That's really hard.
Anthropomorphize.
Anthropomorphize animals and so on. So in my head, they can understand, they judge, so on. Talking to cats, mind, so they definitely judge.
Those chickens are chucking nuts. The chickens are escaping.
So that might explain what in the zoo is visitors and their
Chicken
impressions
judgment is
of
a
me.
bad judgment to have. I tell you, it's terrible.
I don't judge. I don't have any issues talking with the monkeys, which was quite weird.
You have variation of such a according to the animal.
Yeah.
Ladybirds, they okay?
Stuttering podcast. You were in charge of the contacts.
Yeah.
You are the
Oh, yeah.
master of deliberate disfluency,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You've done it on every video we did it.
Yeah.
So what was
It
the
was
problem? I still
No. The idea of those like interviewing people in the street was, well, the whole idea was really to question the views that should you care what people think about stammering, and the answer came back with a resounding no. Shouldn't care at all. People who want to talk will happily talk, even if you're stammering as much as freaking possible. It's fine, yeah, because no one really
It's a
cares
bumpy
that much. Yeah. So it was more to answer the question my dad gave me once in the car, which was, if you were disfluent when you talk to people, would they judge differently? And I was like, I don't know, let's go and find out. So that's what we did, and the answer was no one cares, which is quite cool.
I think everyone already accepted us as the people who started. And the only
It's
the only person who is still resisting is kind of me. So, and the further the faster I tell more people that I'm okay with me being myself as a person who started, the more easy everyone exhale around me, because everyone waiting for me to do it.
Exhale.
Tell people, tell people that you started, and people will exhale around you a lot.
the thing is also,
And then hopefully inhale afterwards.
yeah. Like,
And then continue that cycle for the rest of their lives.
yeah, hopefully.
Until they die.
But I think it's more that you can tell people you stammer, but like, I've personally always been against, well, a part of me has always been against making it or verbally telling someone, because I view it as a sort of cheat. Like, it's like a cheat code in
There
a
were
game.
no cheats.
No, as in, like, if you tell everyone you stammer,
Yeah.
who you've just met, it's great, and they'll say, "Oh, you said that fluently." And you're like, okay. But then if you just freaking stammer instead, then it's no. It's a desensitization strategy, because you see their reaction and you're like, wow.
So
I'm
it's
gonna stammer
better.
anyway.
So it's better to stutter out of control and not tell someone than to tell someone that you stutter, saying, "Hey guys, I stutter, but I sound fluent 99% of the time." Which is a better option? Stutter out of control, not telling them.
If you want, so the honest view which I have is that if you want to be desensitized to it,
Yeah.
not telling them is the best route.
Yeah.
If you stammer, it's great.
is.
If you deliberately stammer, it's great. If you're fluent, it's great. Because even if you're fluent, you're gonna, no matter how fluent we think we sound, freaking stammer like a beast sometimes. So,
just stutter out of control is the best option.
yeah. The thing is, you might want to tell them afterwards, after you stammered a bit, so they know how to react. But I view it as, you have to, from when we went around, is embrace the awkwardness.
Yeah.
You have to see their reactions, because not everyone you speak to you'll have the chance to disclose your stammer to. And if you can embrace the fact that you stammer with their reaction, and you're cool with it, that makes you a stronger speaker, because every scenario that can ever come up has been taken care of, and you're cool with it.
I agree.
How did it work out for you?
That's why I go around not using technique a lot of the time.
Okay. Using technique, the only reason is is to advertise that you stutter.
Yeah.
Eugene, if you stutter, I know that you wanna sound fluent. You wanna show yourself as a fluent person as the first expression,
So
right?
that bit,
And then you shock them with a deliberate disfluency, for example, to show the or real stammering. Hold on. And you want to keep them confused about what's happening with your speech, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what it sounds like.
I think it's a poor communication skills. I mean, we can desensitize ourselves to certain levels. Really, we still like people. If we can communicate better with them, I think we should.
Okay, so that's why the challenge. That's why the challenge I gave earlier is to work on your communication. Ignore your speech, improve communication. Because first thing is, when we go around interviewing people, I'm working on my communication. Like, I have to do some speech stuff to sound like I'm stammering, but I can also do a few interviews not caring so much and just see how it pans out.
But you're still showing people.
You stammer, yeah. But the fact is, you go up to someone, you aim to communicate with them, you communicate. It's the higher objective is what helps you, because you desensitize yourself to the toing and froing of fears, like waves of fear that come and go when you speak as a stammerer. You just ignore all of that and you focus 100% on the communication.
Do you know what is the good indicator of being a bad communicator?
That's just a question.
Stuttering. It's a stuttering. So, I I don't want to be judgmental here, but I can because I started myself, right? So I can be judgmental on myself, and I know that when I'm a bad communicator, when I'm having a bad body posture, not welcoming, when I have a angry eye contact, when I don't smile. I don't know, it was Russian humor. Yeah, like this kind of shit. Yeah, and when I don't want to talk to anyone, no one will talk to me.
Yeah.
And that's a communication
Yeah.
disorder. And a part of it is stammering. So when we're working only on fixing stammering, we just falling deeper and deeper into PTSD. And it's like we are self-centric, isolating ourselves around the problem, which is not a problem. We have to accept it once and move on and work on a communication per se.
Yeah.
But if we want to push into stuttering and think, oh, how far I can go, and if it's not an exercise to become a better communicator later, why doing it? I mean, when you tell people that you stutter, you're working on your speech, you are not in denial about it.
Yeah.
When you are not telling people that you stutter what you think they know, you are in denial about working on the speech, really, on the communication part.
Okay. I agree with that in principle. Oh, wait a minute. No. I think
Say you, I mean, all motherfuckers, all of you.
Alex, we've literally just lost our PG rating now, Alex.
I think we swore enough.
So now we're gonna have to move this into the 15 section of YouTube.
Okay. So the idea
18 now. One more time it becomes X-rated.
So the idea is you have your speech, you have your communication, and you have your no holding back. Because this is to summarize what
in your toolkit
the people around me have helped me to realize. So you got like 3 separate strands you have to pull on. So communication should override speech every time. Because if your speech is shit, then again, another PG rating gone. If your speech is poor,
cut there.
Yeah. If your speech is less than optimal, then you should work on that to enable you to communicate. Yeah. Okay. So if you can communicate well, your ability to not hold back relies on your ability to communicate. So if you take it as a fluent person view, someone who's drunk, right, cannot communicate, but they won't hold back, but no one wants to listen to them. So you should view it as 3 strands.
So you're saying that we are bad drunks?
No, I'm saying that you have to work on your communication ability to enable you to not hold back, because then you can make meaningful connections, which appeals to our internal human being.
The internal human being, as opposed to the external.
No, because
what?
Intellectually, we might say, I want money, I want food, yada yada, but that won't bring you happiness. Because what we should do, in my view, is live a fulfilling life,
and that involves being
part of our speech
connection with people.
Yeah. So
which involves having strong communication bonds.
Yeah. And so this comes back to your view about you have overvaluing. There's a stammer there just for you. Overvaluing.
Wonderful.
Overvaluing.
One
Overvaluing.
for you, Alex, later.
Can I fucking say this word? I've repeated it 4 times.
Speak faster. Hurry up.
Overvaluing interactions with people, because you have the overvaluing because you want to have that connection, and if you fear a lack of that connection or a loss of that connection, you might not have had the connection in the first place, but you feel a loss of it, that means you will stammer more because you're
Less confident, less happy.
You're sort of. We might have to make a new podcast on this because I need to think this one through properly.
I think I know the answer.
Here it comes.
So
The answer we've been waiting for.
Yeah.
So
The
maybe-
George is stammering.
We're finally there, guys. The moment I've been waiting for all my life.
Only on episode 14.
Yeah.
There's going to be no follow-on
14
episodes.
episodes secure stuttering.
Yeah.
Then we can do the whole mic drop afterwards.
Yeah.
Right. So
Cured.
you right to be happy. It's like we have to be surrounded by people who loves us, right?
Yeah.
And we want that, and we're trying to do that. But the way we're trying to do that, we're trying to do with a poor communication,
Yeah.
which expresses itself as us trying to show a better picture of ourselves. But no one is buying better picture of me or you.
Isn't authentic.
Right. So
Yeah.
so when we trying too hard, this is when we come wrong as a communicators.
I agree. On that bombshell, we're going to do a mic drop and say no.
I'm ready to catch it. I'm ready to catch it.
And we're going to finish the show there. Thank you for listening. Yeah, we are. I've been
Hours
Eugene
up.
Wasowski Gallagher.
I'm Tom Wheeler.
Alex Kuzmenko was here. Kuzmenko was here, and I'm a person who's stutter, fluent as fuck, yo.
Thanks for listening, guys.